Let's talk about the things that are actually worth investing in your dog training business and the things that are just a total waste of money. All right, welcome in everybody to another episode of the Top Dog Mindset podcast. Kevin and Angel here. And today we're going to be talking about something that I think can be genuinely helpful for people because I get questions like this all the time in just different forms. But where should I place my money in my business? Like, what is worth spending money on? What's a good investment, a good use of my money, and what's a just big waste of money and time? And so just to kind of open this up, I think there's a couple of different things that are really, really just good things to spend your money on. And I know a lot of times people, when they're first starting their business, you're not starting out with $1 million that you can place into a gigantic staff and really large marketing campaigns and stuff like that. So I have a couple things I think could be really helpful for this. But Angel, why don't you actually kind of start us out here and just talk a little bit about what you've found over the years of working with different dog training businesses?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that we could talk about is one of the obvious is marketing, investing in marketing. Like you said, like not everyone can afford starting out with a big team, nor do I really think anyone should start out with a big team, but just starting out with marketing so you can start getting in clients, obviously. And then there's some other things that I think that we could eventually touch on, like the smaller things. One of the things that you mentioned before we started recording is just gas traveling to and from clients. I think that's a big one in this industry with dog training is because, you're driving to clients, whether it's doing consultations, picking up, dropping off dogs, lessons, and stuff like that. But specifically, even like working with the dogs. Like a lot of people are going out and working dogs in public spaces, parks, stores, things like that. That's a big part of the training that I did when I was still actively training is there was just a ton of driving around, if not to clients, it was at least just driving dogs around in different environments to generalize their obedience in different scenarios.
For sure. Yeah. And I'm actually pulling something up right now because I feel like, all jokes aside, we were kind of half joking about this before about like people saying like, oh, I don't want to have to pay for the gas and gas
Mhm.
is expensive and stuff like that. And so I think you hear stuff like that and you take it at face value and just go like, yeah, that's true. Gas is expensive. I can't afford to drive my car. I had to fill it up twice this week. And it's like, yes, it is expensive. Stuff like that fluctuates though. But what I always think about is like, okay, I'm looking up a couple different things here. Like average in the United States right now. Sorry to the people living in California. I know it's more expensive out there. I live in New Jersey. It's not much better here. But on average, it's like $4.50. You know what I mean? Texas, I think, is cheaper than that. So it averages out like $4.50 per gallon for gas right now. The average car right now is getting like 27 miles per gallon. Some people may be driving trucks that like don't get that. I totally understand all of this, right? And so I can't speak in like total specifics to everybody, but what I'm getting at is that like you hear things like this to be like, I can't afford to go and do that consultation. I got to try and sell over the phone and because of gas. But it's like, okay, you drive 30 miles to go do a consultation both ways, right? 30 and then 30 back. It's like, okay. So if your car is getting 27 miles per gallon, you're driving a little bit more than that. Let's even just say that it's, $5 a gallon, right? So it's like you spent $10 to go do that consultation with the potential of having the upside of making a $1,000, $2,000, $3, $4, $5,000 sale for a lot of our clients, right?
Mm.
And so you can let these really emotional things get in your way of being like, it's a lot of money to drive my car. I don't want to have to fill up my tank. It's like, well, we know when we study this with the dog trainers that we've actually studied their closing rates when they do consultations for most people. This is excluding the people that are like extreme outliers that are really good at selling over the phone. But with paid traffic coming in, when they meet consultations and sell to them face to face, they close like 90% of their leads on a high ticket program, anywhere between like 2 to 5K. And when they sell over the phone, they close like a third of them, like 33%. And
Mm.
so to me, it's like if you have a 70% chance to go out and do a consultation and make a $3,500 sale and you just don't want to do it because gas is expensive, what you're really saying is, I don't want to spend $10 to go potentially make $3,500. And so I think to me, I've fallen victim to stuff like that in my business. And then when somebody really lays it out like that for me, I go like, oh, you know what? That is true. It doesn't really make sense. It's like the trade-off is still extremely worth it. And yeah, it's like, couple of years ago when gas was cheaper, right? It's like how much cheaper was it actually? Was it $1 cheaper per gallon? You know, it's like, so you were willing to go and do the consultation when it would cost you $8 to go there and back, but you won't do it when it's 10. You see what I'm
Mhm.
getting at? So it's like
Yeah.
largely an emotional thing, emotional decision that people arrive at. And I think that you just need to keep it all in context.
Yeah, and for some people it's also time, right? It's sometimes they're not even like worried about gas, but it's just time. Like I don't want to waste my time having to drive out there and do the consultation, especially if you're driving an hour there, spending an hour for the consultation, driving an hour back. That's 3 hours taken out of your day. You could be working dogs, you could be doing this, doing that. So just for like conversation's sake, like I think so in my case, right? Like whenever I was doing consultations, for the most part, they were about an hour and away. That's where most of my clients came from, was from about an hour away from where I lived. And so I just made my schedule around that. Like I would try, if I was going out to a consultation, I would just try to make sure that any consultations I had in that area, I was encouraging them to be on that same day. So that way I was maybe driving an hour there. I was knocking out 2 or 3 consultations. So that way I wasn't having to drive back and forth multiple days a week. So that was one of the things I did. Another thing is I would always bring dogs with me. And so, I mean, maybe some people don't have like the vehicle set up for that, but I think most dog trainers do. And so I would just prepare my day for that and I would just bring dogs with me and just make a training day out of it. Sometimes I would have like a fellow trainer come with me and they'd be working dogs while I'm in the consultation. Like I would drop them off at a park, they would work a dog there while I'm in the consultation or vice versa. Like it was always either like a tag team effort or I was like really like scheduling out my day just based on where those consultations were going to be. So I think like time management and scheduling management is also a super important part of this, is like don't just like wake up and then drive out to a consultation and then come back and figure out like the next thing you got to do. Like really figure out where everything is scheduled out for the week or for the day, what areas that you're going to be in. What I used to also do is like on my on my calendar, whenever I would have a client on the schedule, I would put in parentheses like an abbreviation for the city I was going to be in. So that way, if I'm in the middle of scheduling a client, I could just look at my calendar, like a calendar overview, and just see like, oh, this day has this city, this day has this city. So that way I wasn't having to go into each individual appointment throughout the week and see like, okay, where am I going to be, and try to compare it to like wherever they're at. So that was something that I did to try to, again, just kind of see as an overview, like what cities am I going to be in for certain days. But again, like just thinking ahead and planning ahead. And because with obviously with dog trainers, like not every day is the same. It's not like you're going to a job, you're clocking in at this time, you're doing the same job every single day and you're clocking out. Like it's different day to day based on the number of dogs you have, the number of leads you're going to have calling in. Do you have only board and trains to work, or do you have lessons? Are you going to be having to stay up a little bit late that evening working board and trains because you had a day full of lessons? Like it's changing every single day, and that's pretty much the norm for most dog trainers. So I think the most important thing to do is just planning ahead. Even if it's not gas, it's time, and it's understandable, but you just got to manage the time and the schedule ahead a little bit.
Yeah, and I think this is all just to say that, again, what is a good use of your money? Doing consultations when you need work and you're not making the amount of sales that you want to do. What I always think about is like get in front of people, make it as easy as possible for them to say yes to you. And that's by like
Mhm.
building trust and rapport, getting face to face with them. And so spending money on gas is a really, really high leverage way to spend money in your business. And it's all a tax deduction. You get to write all that off at the end of the year as well. We started this call off by you saying marketing is the obvious thing. I'd love to dive into that a little bit more as well, because I think there's so many little different avenues that we can go down there with that and kind of talk about it. But I think just speaking from like a generalist kind of point of view here, it's funny enough, thinking about this morning and how I've had people over the years just saying to me, like, well, I don't want to spend that much on marketing in my business. And I think this is the difference between like really successful people and people who struggle to make money in life. And really successful people don't mind spending $10 million if it helps them make 15 million. You know? And so you can do that at any scale. There are things that people would be like, I would never spend that much money on that. But it's like, yeah, well, it's an asset that helps me make money. And so I think people do this with their business. We're like, well, I don't want to spend $1,000 on ads. I want to get my clients for free. It's like, yeah, I mean, everyone would love to get all their clients for free. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, if you can spend $1,000 and it helps you make 10, you have to fight every and resist every urge that you have to be like, get scared and freaked out by that, to be like, I'm just going to shut it down. It's too much money. I don't want to spend $1,000, because you're
Mhm.
entirely thinking about it from the expense side of your business, not the upside and the return on investment perspective. And so anybody in business who has any clue what they're doing would tell you, it's like, hey, if you can get a 10-to-1 return on your investment, if you spend 1,000 and make 10,000, you can spend 2,000 and make 20. You can spend 10,000 and make 100,000. And so it's a scalable model that you can really use to get like predictable, reliable income in your business. And so I think that I'm just talking about this because I know that people have said this to me many times over the years, like, I don't want to spend that much. And it's not that I haven't had that feeling too. It's like, it's always a little bit scary and intimidating to have to spend money. But it's scary when you don't see a proven track record moving forward that you feel like this actually works, It'd be like one
Mhm.
thing to take $1,000 and put it into a lotto ticket and like, hey, I hope that I make $10,000 from this. Like that would be really scary and not a good use of your money. But there are so many other people that are already currently doing this where they're spending $1,000, $1,500 a month on ads, and they have $50,000 a month businesses because of it. And so it's not like you would be taking a real gamble here. You're doing what is already proven in the marketplace, and what your competitors who are doing what you want to be doing with your business, that's what they're doing. That's how they're running their business successfully. But for some reason, you have this mental stumbling block around like, hey, I just don't want to spend the money on.
Yeah, and I kind of want to go back to what I was talking about before too, when we're talking about traveling to consultations and it kind of like taking time away from the schedule, because I think that's a common thing that we hear too, is like not wanting to do this because it's a waste of time, or not wanting to do that because it's going to require more of me or whatever. And time is money and all that kind of stuff. But yes, time is money. And if you're taking the time to do some of these things, like even like free versions of self marketing, like getting out there and networking with people, or going out to events and working dogs and talking with people, and I don't know, maybe like starting a Facebook group, or even just getting more involved in Facebook groups and helping people with their dogs and doing free pack walks and things like that, like things that are free but do take up your time. But like, yes, time is money, but you do those things that you are investing time in for your business, and it will come back in return.
Yeah, that's a funny saying. We all have these business slogans that we all hear and people throw around. Time is money is one of the most popular ones I've heard.
Mhm.
And you make a really good point because it's like, well, how much money is your time currently getting you? You know, like if you're somebody and this is not to knock anybody, but I'm just speaking to the person where you're struggling, you're underachieving, you're not making the amount of money that you would like to earn on a monthly basis right now. If you're thinking to yourself, like, hey, I don't want to go and spend my time doing consultations because time is money. Well, frankly, I wish somebody told me this years ago, right? Like your current use and allocation of your time is not making you money, or at least not the amount of money that you want to make. And so you need to find a better way to allocate your time to make more money. And so one of the best, or one of the most high leverage activities that you can do in your dog training business, and this is only after studying this with over, close to 400 dog training businesses at this point that we've worked with one-on-one. One of the best things that you can use your time doing is in-person consultations if you're not making the amount of money you want to make. Now, if you're somebody who's happy and you're making a lot of money in your business and you have more work than you know what to do with, and you're trying to optimize your time to make the most amount of money and sell over the phone and have people come to you for consultations, I'm all for that. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people that, have a lot of success doing that. But I think for most people, that is not the case. And I think most people would be better served using their time and being capable of increasing their earning capacity by using their time more efficiently by doing in-person consultations.
Mhm. Yep. There's another one if you wanna move on from this one,
No, go right ahead. Do you
is
have another business slogan for us? Is that what you were getting at?
no, not another business slogan. Another
Okay.
thing that I think is worth investing in. So this one is coaching and mentorship. I feel like there are a lot of sources to even be able to get this for free, especially like from other dog trainers who are running successful businesses. A lot of the time they are helping mentor others, but like in our case with our clients, it's something that we include in the program that all of our clients are a part of, as far as like one-on-one coaching, group coaching, stuff like that. But I feel like people underestimate investing in good coaching.
Agreed.
Even like investing time in good coaching.
Because time is what? Time is what, Angel?
Time is money.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like investing time in coaching, like actually making it a priority, and to the extent of like putting it on your calendar, you're not even going to book like lessons or anything like that during that time because you have to be a part of some sort of like coaching program.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, that's something that I feel like I find myself talking more and more about with a lot of our new clients is, when I first started Top Dog Advertising, I was fully intent on just starting a marketing agency for dog trainers, and I was like,
Mhm.
they just need leads. But then what I found out afterwards, like after working with my first few clients, was like, oh man, I'm watching this person just like burn through these leads and get nothing out of it. And they're saying that they weren't serious. And then I'm talking to them about like, well, how did you handle it? Well, that we listened to the call through the recording we had and stuff like that. And I'm like, of course this person didn't buy. And then I started, meeting with people one-on-one and giving them different perspectives. And, it's all them doing the work, but just the information, giving them the information of like, hey, here's actually how you handle that objection when somebody starts asking about pricing on the initial phone call. Or here's, how see how you said this, you should have said this instead. And all of a sudden people started having these months where they were having like, 30, 40, $50,000 months. And they're like, dude, this is working like gangbusters. And it became apparent to me, it's like getting leads is one part of the problem, but it's not the whole thing. Good
Mhm.
coaching, good advice. I need that in my business. I pay people to tell me like, hey, this is where you're currently bottlenecking right now. And I've said this many times on podcasts we've recorded over the years, but it's worth repeating. Tiger Woods has a swing coach, right? Michael Jordan had a shooting coach. And so the idea that like people at that level are paying people to see things that they're blind to themselves, but like that we don't need that is frankly something that I had to kind of like recognize in myself as I was being a little bit pompous, thinking that I knew everything. And the really freeing thing is when you realize like, hey, there's other people that can help me. I don't need to do everything on my own. It's a really freeing feeling actually. And so, yeah, what I say to a lot of new clients is like, listen, we're going to get you new leads, but make sure to show up to the coaching calls because like that is really the secret sauce of what we do here at Top Dog Advertising. Is like we're going to hold your hand and guide you through literally everything that you could possibly need help with in your business. And I've just noticed this pattern with the people who show up, come to group coaching calls, meet with their coach, amongst other things. Like those are the people that we see this like overnight success. My finger's not in frame. Overnight success. Where people like all of a sudden go from making a couple $100, a couple $1,000 a month to all of a sudden they're hiring a team. They're making $50,000, $60,000 a month. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that mentioning like Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan is a really good example because, like, when you think about it, so when someone wants to start a business, it's something that you have to, like, most of the time you're just learning along the way and you have to figure out how to do and better yourself on, being a business owner and all that kind of stuff. But, like, think of it as being an athlete. When when someone is starting a sport or starting some sort of activity or whatever and they know nothing about it, they're just not going into it. And then, maybe they lose their first game or they don't make the team or something like that. And they're like, oh, I'm that other team. Like they just did this or they did that. And that's why I couldn't do as good.
Right.
Or I didn't do good in my game because my teammates were never passing the ball to me. Like it's
hmm
their fault on why I didn't do good.
Yeah. Or
So
like
if
the
it's
refs,
like,
the refs screwed us over or something like that.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think I mean, even coming from experience, like my kids being in sports, they're young. And so I feel like kids tend to have that mindset is like they'll start to get mad at their own teammates, or, they're like, why didn't you pass the ball to me? Or, that kid like ran into me when we were running and then that's why I couldn't get up and grab the ball or something like that. Like they just don't really have the capacity to stop and like think to themselves, like, okay, I didn't do good because of this. So I need to practice this specific skill, or I need to be more present when in practice so I can make sure that I'm bettering myself, or I need to exercise more because it's going to help me in this particular skill. So I feel like it's pretty relatable, because you just get more coaching and you better yourself as an athlete so you can do better at the entire game. I think it's the same thing in business. Like you're not automatically like a great business owner when you decide to open a business. You just have to be open-minded. You have to be willing to do what it takes. And that includes coaching. If you're
Yeah.
not good at talking to people, you're going to figure out how to get better at talking to people. If you're not good at networking, you're going to figure out how to get better at networking. If you're not good at, you know, sales and handling objections, you're going to figure out how to better yourself at that particular thing so you can better yourself as a business owner. Being a business owner doesn't automatically mean that you're someone who decides, like, I like doing this thing. And so I am going to create packages of it and sell it. Like it's not just as easy as that. And so I think it's really helpful to relate it to other things like that. And coaching for a business is just as important as coaching in other aspects in life.
100%. Yeah. No, it's a really good point. It's a really good analogy. And, I was thinking while you were talking, it's funny. I was watching the Knicks, like, shout out to my Knicks, my beloved Knicks for winning the championship, first time in 53 years. But I was watching the game, and in the beginning, it's like, it's a really good analogy for business because there were calls that were going against them. There were calls that, seem like, okay, it kind of seems like a little bit unfair. You start thinking to yourself, like, does the NBA just want to see these series go on longer? Do they not want to see the Knicks win here because there's more money to be made if they let this go on to 6, 7 games, And it was funny. The Knicks ended up winning the game, and I was on Twitter, which is just the most negative, ugly place in the world, but I was still on there on X, and I saw some guy who was a Spurs fan talking about how, the Knicks had this like, miraculous comeback where they come back to win, and, they were like 29 points down, biggest, comeback in like NBA finals history. And I saw this Spurs fan talking about how the Spurs got screwed over and there were a couple calls that didn't go their way. And I'm like, it's so funny. It's all of like in the eye of the beholder. Cause I was sitting there going like, man, the Knicks are really getting screwed. And this guy is sitting there going like, the Spurs got screwed. And so it's like, who's getting screwed here? And
Hmm.
what it really boils down to is like, you just need to play the hand that you're dealt, and complaining about the referees, excluding situations like that we've seen in the past where like there actually is malicious intent, but, and like there's a ref that's getting paid off or something like that. But I think with most scenarios, it's like, hey, there is no, it just is as it is. Like a call goes your way sometimes it doesn't go your way. Right. But at the end of the day, that's very much so the way that it is for business, but I've talked to enough people over the years where like they want to pin everything on the refs. They want to pin everything on the economy. They want to pin it on their new competitor. They want to pin it on the people not being serious and not wanting to do their work, or, nobody wants to take dog training seriously. And true champions just overcome everything in their way. Like they're just relentless. They're not going to stop because one person tries to put up a roadblock, I was
Yeah.
thinking this the other morning, like it was a particularly rough week in certain cases, just for, a couple different weird things that have happened in life and in business recently and stuff like that. And I was thinking one morning while I was like coming into my office to turn my lights on, and I had this thought to myself. I was like, well, Kevin, no one ever said it was going to be easy. And as soon as you start thinking to yourself, like, this is supposed to be easy, it's just not. It's not. And if you think to yourself, it's going to be easy, you're setting yourself up for failure. And so like, if you almost like expect hard, then you'll probably be pleasantly surprised. But if you expect easy, you're going to be completely distraught because you set your expectations that it was going to be an easy ride for you. And
Yeah.
so, I think the analogy that we're talking about here, where, you look at sports, and, you look at a team that loses by 1 point in a game and you can blame it on the refs and stuff like that. It's like, but hey, you guys missed 7 free throws throughout the game. If you made those, you would have won the game, statistically speaking, by, 6 points. And
Mhm.
so this is what we focus on so much with our clients, where it's like, okay, you didn't necessarily hit your goal this month. Let's take a look at all your leads together. Hey, you only set 10% of your leads for consultations and you made 5 grand, right? If you set a more reasonable amount, say you set 30% of your leads for consultations, statistically speaking, you would have made 15 grand. And so
Mhm.
let's find where the bottleneck is in your business. Let's find out where it's like kind of falling apart and focus on that aspect of it. But a lot of people just want to focus on the end result and like the outcome, and then like use the quote unquote loss and be like, I lost because of this, this, and this. When in reality, there actually were a lot more things within your control that you could have done to actually dictate and get the outcome that you actually wanted.
Yeah. I think bottom line with like all these sports analogies that we're talking about is like you really are only in control of yourself. And I mean there's certain things obviously like if someone is really trying hard at marketing and maybe all of their leads, rarely does this happen, but maybe all of their leads are people that are calling from like, I don't know, 4 hours away. They're calling from a completely different state, and it's like, "Why are you calling me? I'm not even located near you." That's
Yep.
one thing, but if you have leads that are coming in, again, like, you can only control yourself. You can't control the market, you can't control the economy, you can't control what people are saying to you on the phone, but what you can do is work with it and figure out what you can do and what you can change to work with it and end up, convincing these people otherwise or showing them a little bit more value on why they need to meet you in person. And, like, it's not to get, like, back into parenting. I'm not parenting everyone, but again, these are like conversations I have with my kids regarding sports. You know what I mean? It's like you have a bad day at practice or you have a bad game, and it's like, he did this, she did that, he didn't pass the ball, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I'm hearing a lot of he did that and she did that, but like, what did you do? It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to like vent about all this stuff. You might have teammates or even people on the other team that frustrated you and stuff like that, which is fine. But at the end of the day, the only thing that you can do to make practice go better or the next game go better is better yourself. And same thing for all of those kids. They can be mad at you, but only thing that they can do is better themselves. So focus on you, focus on the different skills that you can make yourself better at, even if that's your attitude, like your attitude as in like, okay, go to a game, another kid makes you mad, or in this case, you go to a consultation and you hear something that frustrates you, and it's probably an objection you've never had to handle before. Be frustrated about it, but figure out how you can handle that differently next time. Because you can't change everyone around you, but you can change how you're handling it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. And just to, you made me think of a couple things there. And I think the number one thing is it's just so easy in life to blame other people.
Mhm.
It just is the easiest like default thing for us to do as human beings is just like, it's not me, it's that person, or
Yeah.
it's that entity. It's that institution, whatever it is. If you live your life like that, you've just completely given up all control. And it's like, okay, well just pack it in and just like, who cares? Just shut it all
Yep.
down.
Yep.
Because yeah, you're right. Like it's completely outside of your control. But I don't think that's true. I think for most of us, like if we don't make the sale, it shouldn't be like why did the person, they weren't serious or something like that. And obviously let's just get this out of the way. There's gonna be people who are not serious.
Mhm.
But if you get 30 people in a month and everyone's not serious, guess who's actually not serious? You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so what I always think about when I struggled in sales in the past is like I had to kind of come to the realization it's like, is it that this person was not sellable? Or was it that Kevin Byram was just not able to sell them? Right. And I'm not the greatest salesman in the world. That's a given. But if I really want to beat up on other people and say like, oh, this person wasn't a good lead or something like that, it's like what I really need to look at in the mirror, it's like, is there really nobody who could have sold them? Because if there's somebody who could have sold them and they were like, they had the money and they were serious about growing their dog training business, but I just couldn't get them across the finish line, then it's like, hey, I need to probably do better. and I need to find a way to help these people because I'm not the greatest salesman in the world, but that doesn't mean that I can't get better, you know?
Mhm.
And so there really is levels to this. Here's a really interesting one that I've seen, right? Like we do take on multiple clients in markets and stuff like that depending on the size of the market. Los Angeles, like that's a good example. Doesn't need to be just one dog trainer there. It's like there's millions and millions of people. You couldn't train every dog even if you wanted to. But I've seen instances where we had a client leave a market and then we take on a new client and they get the same lead. And to one person, that lead was a tire kicker and not serious. And to the other person, it's a $5,000 board and train. And that is a really painful thing to have to come to terms with, where it's like, what is that? Is it just like what it really is like they just weren't bought into what the first person was trying to sell them, you know?
Mhm.
And it's an interesting thing because what I'm really trying to get at here is that, yeah, one person's tire kicker is another person's $5,000 board and train. And that's the question you need to be asking yourself is like, were they genuinely somebody that couldn't be sold? And what I mean by that is like, so, let's be honest here. You have a $4,000 offer. This person has been on disability for 30 years. They have no money. Of course, like they probably are not going to be able to find a way to come up with the 4K, but it's an average run of the mill American family. And, they have a dog that's pulling on a leash. They own a house. Both the parents have jobs and didn't buy. They just weren't sold. And so that's actually a very freeing thing because it's like, there's all this low hanging fruit in your business that you can actually capitalize on. You just need to find the way to do it. You need to learn the skill set to do it, not just be like, oh, these people are not serious.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I hope that you guys got some value out of this today. This is a topic that's near and dear to me because I feel like every single person, every single entrepreneur needs some guidance on like, hey, this is a good way to spend your time and money. This is a not so good way to spend your time and money. And so I hope you guys got some value out of this. As always, we always appreciate you guys supporting us, listening to the podcast. And if there's anything you want to hear us talk about in any of the upcoming episodes, definitely let us know in the comments down below. And when we will talk to you guys all very soon. See you guys.
Bye, guys.